Here we go. Good. Now we are on the last leg of the mitzvahs, the 73 commandments that are in this Torah portion, Torah Parshas Ki Tetzei. And we've learned some of the commandments. Yeah. We've learned some of the commandments. Very interesting, very diverse. Let's just go over a couple of them from the last time, and we'll go further. Negative commandment. Negative commandment, a person that gets married, he should not go out to war or really anything for 1 year. Negative commandment. Don't go out to war or any other major occupation that will take him away from his family, his wife. Positive commandment, that a chatan, a newly married man, should spend the first year, 1 year, with his wife. He should be free, so they should build a relationship together. This also applies to if he made the same thing as he goes to war. Doesn't go to war if he built a vineyard or he just built a house. We talked about that before. Next commandment. You're not allowed, if someone borrows money from you, you can take from them collateral. You can take from them what's called a mashkon, a surety. You know, he borrows $10,000 from you, so you can take his car, right? Take his car from him, and you hold on to the car until he pays you back. But you cannot take as collateral something that makes food, like for instance, a grinding stone or things like that. You're not allowed to take. I don't know if anything makes stone nowadays, but I guess you're a mix master. Can't take anything. And back then, people used to make food in their houses. That's what they used to live for. Well, anything that makes food, you're not allowed to take as a surety. Next, you have, if a person has sarat is a biblical disease. They call it very loosely is leprosy, for lack of a better word to call it. I guess because it's a disease, a Torah disease that appears on the skin of a person, and there's very exact laws of what they are. And one of them is the hairs. If the hairs are white, well, you're not allowed to cut off these hairs in order to appear pure, because it ends up that you're really not pure. But by cutting off the hairs, so the Kohen cannot declare you to be impure, so technically you are still pure if you cut off the signs, but you're not allowed to do it. It's a sin to cut off these signs. Next commandment, almost finished. Next commandment, not, if somebody owes you money, you're not allowed to go into his house and pull out the collateral, right? Very strange law, right? Here's Shmerel owes me $100, and he owes me $100, and he doesn't pay me. So I'll say, okay, I'm going to go into your house and take your golf clubs until you give me the money back. You're not allowed to do it. You can't go into his house and you can stand outside and say, bring me something that's valuable. I want to hold on to it. You can come outside, but you're not allowed to take a surety from someone by force. Next, negative commandment. So here happens. Shmerel loaned you. He borrowed $500 from you, and he gave you his golf clubs. Now $500. You say, Shmerel, when you give me the money back, I'll give you your golf clubs. Then Shmerel comes to your house and says, listen, you got to do me a favor. My boss invited me to play golf with him today. I got to use my clubs. It might mean that I'll get a big raise in pay. Do me a favor, give me back my golf clubs. You can say to him, no way, give me my $500. How do I know you're going to give it back to me? You owe me $500. I'm not giving you these golf clubs until you pay me the money. You can't do that. If he comes and he demands that he needs these things, you can give it back to him. You took his car as a surety, right? Until he pays you back. You borrowed $1,000, gives you your car, he'll pay you back tomorrow. And he doesn't come back tomorrow. Doesn't come back, doesn't pay you back. And he says, now, listen, I need my car. I got to go somewhere. The law is that you have to give him the car back temporarily, of course, until he finishes. And then he has to give it to you. Positive commandment. That's the negative commandment, not to hold on to the surety that he gave you as a surety that he'll pay you back the money that he borrowed from you. You can't hold on to it. Positive commandment, you must give that back to him. So it's a double commandment, right? It's forbidden to hold on to it, and it is a big mitzvah to, yes, give it back, because it's certainly not natural. Next commandment, positive commandment, a person that works for you by the day. You didn't make any agreement, he works for you by the day, you have to pay him back at the end of the day. Unless you made a stipulation, I'll pay you back at the end of the week, then that's okay. But if you did not make any stipulation and no conditions, then you have to pay. Or if he's working, let's say on a thing, he agrees, I'll build you the house and you can pay me when the thing is finished, right? Then that's different. I'll pay you for a house, build me a house, I'll give you $10,000. Right? Then you don't have to pay him every day. That's if he works by the piece. Negative commandment. A person cannot be found guilty of anything unless there is two witnesses. Sometimes one witness is enough in order to force the person to make an oath. But two witnesses. But those witnesses have to be valid witnesses. Valid witnesses means they have to be male. Doesn't make any sense, but that's the law. Witnesses have to be male. Women do not give witness. In certain cases they do, but generally not. Also, those witnesses cannot be relatives with one another, and they can't be a relative of either of the litigants. Can't be. So if someone's brother sees that person doing a crime, he can't testify either for him or against him. So here we go. The court. Now, what is a relative, right? Is it relative of the mother, the father? What about your grandchildren? What about your cousin? What about your cousin's cousins? What about your cousin's wife? Not sorry, your cousin's, you have a female cousin, her husband. Can he testify against you? Let's see. Also, criminals cannot. If a person has already been found guilty of some certain crimes, he also can't be a witness, even though he saw the thing happen. He can't be a witness. Okay. Yeah. Negative commandment, not to accept witness testimony from a relative. Like it says, lo yamusu avos alabanim. It says in general, but you have to explain what it means. Fathers cannot die because of the sons. What does it mean because of the sons? What do you mean they can't die because of the son? What does that mean? You see, a person sees his son dying, he can't risk his life to save his son. Of course not. That's where the Torah has to be explained. It says the testimony of his sons. And it goes not only his son, but also all of his other relatives. Technically, from the Torah, only relatives from the father's side. And as you have a brother, your mother gave birth to you, and she remarried. She gave birth to another brother. And so you two are brothers, blood brothers. You can testify together. You can testify one on the other from the Torah. But if there's two brothers that come from the same father, they don't even know each other, they can't testify each other. Like I'm saying, a lot of the laws of the Torah are not logical. Okay, there's a lot of details. An uncle with his nephew, right? Positive, negative commandment. Uncle with his. Where do we go? Brothers cannot. Okay, here we go. But other relatives, whether from the mother or the father or no matter, they are no good. From the rabbis. But the rabbis is the same thing as the Torah. They're no good. So it says brothers are no good, a father is no good. Okay, you can look at all the details over here. Nevertheless, you should know that relatives cannot be witnesses either for or against either one. Negative commandment. A judge has to not be influenced, not have any mercy on a convert. I mean, on anybody, but on a convert or a orphan. Like it says, lo sateh mishpat ger yatom. What does it mean? The judge might see that the orphan is guilty, right? He really owes $10,000 to this incredibly rich man, right? Rich man. So the judge can say, come on, this rich guy, he has millions. What does he need this $10,000 from this poor person for? I'll find the poor person, and then I'm going to knock the poor person out. And he's got a good case, but I see that he's guilty. So, and he really thinks that he's innocent, this convert or the orphan. But the fact is he's not innocent. He really owes the money. But come on, an orphan, a convert, he hasn't got any place. I'll be lenient with him. You can't do it. It's forbidden to do. You have to say what the law is, find him guilty. You want to give him money, you want to pay him from your own pocket, that you can do, but don't. If you transgress, and you are, then you have transgressed 2 commandments. First of all, don't make injustice. And the second one is this one. You can't have mercy on you can't have improper mercy on anybody. But if you do it to a convert or a convert or an orphan, then that's a double sin. You're not allowed to have mercy on them if you see that they're guilty. Next commandment. Negative commandment, not to take any collateral from a widow. A woman who hasn't got a husband, her husband died. So she's broken a little bit, so maybe even a lot. So she borrows money from you. So she borrows money, $10,000. So you can say, okay, but I want some collateral, right? She says, it could be that you want collateral, but according to the Torah, you're not allowed to take it. She's right. You're not allowed to take collateral. So technically, a widow, she wants to put a mortgage on her house. Technically, a Jewish bank could not take, I'm sure the rabbis have some way around it, because it could be that nobody would want to loan her money if she's got no backing to it at all. Nevertheless, the cold law is you are not allowed to take collateral or a surety and a loan from a widow. You have to give her a loan. Of course, you can't take interest either. We'll see that in a moment. Next, if you are harvesting your field and wheat and rye and whatever is it, barley, and you leave a bundle in the field, you're not allowed to go back and take it. That's called shichcha. Shene'amar, like it says, v'shachachta omer b'sodecha lo tashuv l'chachto. If you forget, you have to leave it for the poor people. And there used to be in every harvest, all the poor people would come and they would gather all the things that were leket and shichva and peah. You have to leave the corners of your garment. Another, that you're not allowed to take it. That's a negative commandment. Positive commandment, you must leave an omer in your field. You must leave it there for the poor people to take. Next positive commandment. Let's make a little bit of time because I want to do the Chumash also. A positive commandment to carry out the punishment of flogging, beaten. There's some punishments which are punishable by money. You have to pay money. Sometimes you have to pay damages or embarrassment charges. There's some things that are punishable by death. There are crimes that are punishable by death. We learned that 4 different types of death. And then there are crimes that are punishable by flogging, by getting beaten, both men or women. There are crimes that if they transgress them, that they can get beaten. And that's most of the crimes that are in the Torah. This is a person he eats on Yom Kippur. He purposely eats milk and meat together. So the crime for this, you have to have witnesses. He has to have witnesses, and there has to be a warning, a proper warning, just like a capital punishment. It's corporal punishment. The punishment is that a person gets lashes. The maximum lashes that a person can get for one crime is 39 lashes, maximum. Really, the maximum is 40, but they made it 39 because if the person that's dispensing these lashes goes over, gives too many, then it's a crime. Lo Yosif. It says you're not allowed to. It says not to add on the 39 lashes. So therefore, they say, really, you could give him 40, but they say don't do it. Give him 39. So if he happens to be that he goes one over, so he hasn't really transgressed from the Torah. Nevertheless, you know. And they used to have a doctor that would stand there, and they would check the person out to see if he could really take it or not. And the doctor would say, this person can only take 12 lashes. That's all, because you can't come close to death. It could be that some people that can only take one. You can't come close to death. And now there's a lot of other details also. If the person goes to the bathroom in the middle, then he's free, and if it runs away, he's free. I imagine that it says the same thing with the death penalty, that if there was a court that killed somebody, that administered the death penalty once in 7 years, some people 70 years, then it was called a Beit Din Chablanit. It was called a destructive or whatever, a hanging court, right? A court that liked to hang people. There is no punishment of hanging in Judaism. Even though it says that the person after he was killed, he was hung up, but not by his neck, he was hung up by his hands, just in a very short amount of time. We learned that here. Okay, you have to administer lashes. You look in the Gemara, in the Mishnayos even, a Makot, right near the end, the last chapters, and it talks about this thing of Makot. Lashes, how it was given. You're not allowed to add 39, maximum, he gets 39. What if he did several crimes that is punishable by 39? So they give him 39, and then they let him come back to health, and then they give him 39 more. Negative commandment, not to prevent an animal from eating while it is plowing or harvesting, when it is working and harvesting in your wheat field or whatever it is. You have to let the animal eat. Don't put because some people would put a muzzle on the animal. So, negative commandment, not to marry. We did this yesterday. A person that has a brother, and right, you have a brother, and your brother is married. It makes no difference if you are married or you're not married. You have a brother, and the brother is married, and the brother dies without any children. So his wife cannot get married to anybody else. His wife has to get married to her dead husband's brother. And if he has several brothers, she has to get married to one of them. The oldest one has sort of the rights to choose if he wants to get married or not. And if he doesn't want to, then do chalitza. That's a whole different thing. That's called the yibum. That law is called the law of yibum. Yibum. These are strange laws, friends. I told you, it's strange laws. But life is even stranger. The fact is, positive commandment, that like this, the negative commandment, she can't get married to anyone else. The positive commandment is that if it's your brother that passed away, God forbid, passed away with no children, then you must marry his wife. You must marry her. That's the commandment. Negative command. There's another positive commandment, that if he does not want to marry her, so she puts the shoe on his. It's a whole big process. The special shoe she puts on his foot, and she spits on the ground in front of him, and etc. Okay. And she says, this is what happens to somebody who does not want to carry out his brother's inheritance. Positive commandment. That's called yibum. That's called chalitza. Chalitza, because she takes off the shoe from him. Strange law. If he refuses to marry her, and of course, if she doesn't want to get married to him, then he can he should do this chalitza. Negative, positive commandment. If you see someone running after someone else to kill him, and you're sure he's going to kill him, you have to do everything possible to stop this person, even if it means killing him. But you should try not to kill him. You could just cut off his foot or something, or wound him, shoot him in the eye or something. Negative commandment. Don't have any mercy on someone who's running after someone else to kill him. Now, this is a very difficult law, and I have to admit I never really understood it, because there's another law that says that there's a goal adam. We learned about that, right? The person kills somebody by accident, so he runs to a city of refuge, and if he doesn't make it to the city of refuge, or he goes out of the city of refuge, then the family of the accidentally murdered man, his family can take revenge. So now you're walking down the street, you see someone running after somebody else. Now, how do you know that the one that's running after this person, that he's doing it according to the Torah? He's taking revenge according to the Torah. Well, you're going to go and cut off his foot. So I really never understood this law, I have to admit. And I also have to admit that I never really asked. I did ask a little bit, but I never really got an answer. But this is the law. The law is that if you see someone running after someone else and you want to kill him, and you're sure that this person is unjustified, how are you going to know that? I don't know, but anyways, you have the right to do everything possible to stop this man from killing the other one. Negative commandment. Don't have any mercy on the person who is running after the other one to kill him. Because we're talking about Jews over, that's the commandment. Really, if you see anybody, you should try, but to a Jew, it's a commandment. Negative commandment, you should not, and we'll stop here. I think this is about it. This is it. I said, okay, we have only two more. Negative commandment, not to leave in your property, in your possession, false measures or false weights. Shouldn't even be, even if you don't use it, don't have them even in your possession. Okay, here we have three very intense mitzvahs, the last three. A positive command, remember what Amalek did to you. Amalek is a nation that hates the Jews, like the Nazis. And they pops off, I mean, pure anti-Semitism pops up all over the world all the time. I don't know if that means that, all of them want to kill the Jews. It could be a lot of them just hate the Jews because that's just what they received from their parents, or that nobody ever taught them otherwise. Could be. I know, like after the 6-Day War, so everybody liked the Jews. There was very few people that were anti-Jew, except for the Jews themselves, the Israelis themselves. Yeah, it wasn't us. We're not a conquering nation. We didn't mean it. In any case, so I don't know who's pure Amalek. Amalek is a nation that is willing to die, to do anything to get the Jews. They hate the Jews just because they're Jews, and not because they're Jews, because they're God's people, and they hate God. So there's inside of every Jew, there's also a little Amalek. Inside of every Jew is everything. So anyways, there's a lot of Maimorim written about this, a lot of Maimorim. This is especially the holiday of Purim. You have to remember what Amalek did to us. Remember. Commandment, second commandment, 3 commandments about Amalek. Remember what they did. Number 2, to destroy the seed of Amalek. You have to wipe them out, because we don't know who they are. So you can't just say, my next door neighbor, because he drives over my lawn, is Amalek. You can't just, anyway, Mashiach is going to tell us who it is, and we're going to have to wipe out this whole nation. Next, a negative commandment, not to forget Amalek. So we have 3 things: to remember what he did, not to remember, not to forget, and to wipe out Amalek. This is going to be the end of this week's Torah portion. Tomorrow, God willing, we'll learn the Torah. Okay, let's go and learn the Torah portion now. Here we go. Let's learn the Torah portion. One moment. There we go. Oh. And back to Torah. There we go. Okay, a few commandments. Yes. Lo saz your Eved, do not return a slave. We already went over this in the Mitzvot Hashem. but this is the source. Lo sazgir eved, do not return a slave to his master that he ran to you, that he is trying to be saved to you from his master. Rashi says, even an Eved Kanani, this is talking about even a non-Jewish slave of a Jew. A non-Jewish slave of a Jew becomes a Jew. He's like, if a Jew buys a non-Jewish person to be his slave, his servant, whatever you want to call it, then that person is like, he's like a Jew. In other words, he has all the commandments of a woman. Doesn't have to put on tefillin or other things, but he is. And if you leave him, if you release him, then he becomes a full Jew. Now we're talking about someone who was a servant outside of Israel and he ran away to Israel. Then you don't have to give him back. If it's within Israel, then you do give him back, but not. He should stay with you. He should stay with you until whatever he wants to in one of your gates, and don't treat him badly. If he ran from outside of Israel to Israel, then don't treat him badly. What exactly is his status if he's considered now to be a Jew? Because a non-Jewish servant that gets freed, he becomes 100% Jew. So I don't exactly know what the status of this person is because his master did not free him. I think we'll have to look and see the laws. Next, lo te'eh kadesha b'benos Yisrael, lo kadosh b'bnei Yisrael. There should not be an unmarried woman that has, released herself to fornication without getting married. And also the same thing as a man. A man also should not release himself, and here we're talking about homosexuality. It says, a man should not, mezuman lemishkav zachar. He is available for homosexuality. So that's a double crime. Homosexuality is forbidden. And here is a person that is advertising that he's freed himself for this, even taking money, whatever, that's forbidden. Can't. A double sin. Some people say this means that it's talking about, or in addition, a Jewish woman that gets married to a non-Jewish servant. So therefore, if you free the non-Jewish servant, then it's okay, and he can, but it's not allowed. We talked about this before, the price of a prostitute. Now here we're talking about a prostitute. This is not a kadesha. This is not a woman, a non-married woman. This is a woman that is forbidden for the man to have relations with, and nevertheless he does have relations with, and he pays her money. That money cannot be used to buy a sacrifice with. And if you did, the sacrifice is no good. Or the same thing, if you go to someone and you pay him a nice sheep to bring to the Holy Temple, you pay him with a dog, right? That also is not. Allah does that. It makes no sense. If you give him a snake, it's okay, but a dog is not okay. Makes any sense? Doesn't make any sense. That's it. Don't take interest. Neshech kesef, neshech ochel, kol asher tashich. Don't say to a person, I'll give you 2 bites of my sandwich, but tomorrow you have to give me 3 bites of your sandwich. You can't do that. Don't say today I'm going to give you $10 and tomorrow you give me $10 and a penny. It's forbidden to do that to a Jew. You're not allowed to take interest on a loan. To a non-Jew, you can. Some people say you must take some interest from a non-Jew. We talked about that. In order that you must take an interest, in order that God will bless you in everything that you do on the land that you are there as an inheritance. Natural thing. People loan money and they take interest. If you make a vow to God to bring a sacrifice, don't delay. You should dorashi doshenu Hashem elkecha, because God will demand it from you, and it will be a sin. What does it mean? 3 holidays. If you make a vow, I'm going to bring a sacrifice, a free will sacrifice, on the holiday of Shavuot or any other time, you shouldn't let 3 holidays go by without paying it back. So don't make any vows. Don't delay in paying your vows you make to the temple. Best thing is don't vow at all. But if you don't make any vows at all, there's nothing wrong with that. Who says you have to make vows to the Holy Temple? General principle in Judaism, in life, a man is only worth his word. Guard whatever comes out of your lips. And you should do whatever you promise. Any vow that you make with your mouth, you should keep. And this is especially talking about the Holy Temple. When you come B'kerem Recha, you should, if you're working in the vineyard of your fellow Jew, the fellow Jew should allow you to eat grapes as much as you want to, but you can't put them into your vessel and take it home and invite your friends, things like this. What if you're working in the grains of your field, and you grab small edible grains in your hand, but you can't chop it down and take that home. If a person gets married, takes a woman, Uba'ala has relations with her, and he doesn't like her, because he found something wrong with her. And there's a big argument about what does it mean something wrong. Some people say that she did sins, and some people say that she just doesn't know how to treat him properly. And some people say that he just found she doesn't sin, and he just found a nicer looking girl, somebody wants better. In any case, whatever reason it is, the opinion is generally like the second one, the first one. If she did a sin, they found something wrong with her. But katav lo sefer kritu. In order to divorce a woman in Judaism, you must give her a bill of divorce. V'natan biyada, you have to give it to her in her hand. V'shilcha mebeito, and then you send her from your house. She's not your wife anymore. She can get married to whoever she wants to, according to the Torah, whoever it's permissible. Okay, but can she remarry her original husband? Yes. She can get married again. He can remarry the wife if you wanted to, but only on one condition. Yeah, listen, there's a couple of conditions. If this man that divorced his wife is a Kohen, then he can't take her back, because a Kohen cannot get married to a divorcee. So if he's a Kohen, he should think really very strongly before he divorces his wife, because he won't be able to take her back. There's another way also that a man cannot take his wife back, and that's it. She gets married to someone else after he divorces her. If after he divorces her, she becomes married to someone else, and the second person also doesn't like her, and the second husband does the same thing as the first one does, writes her a bill of divorce, and he puts it in her hand, and sends her from the second house, right? This is second husband. Or let's say the second husband dies. That took her to a wife. The first husband that sent her cannot take her back. To be a wife. She's already become, so to speak, defiled. She got married to someone else, can't take her back. Because it is despisable to God. Do not make the land defiled that God gave to you as an inheritance. He says that because it's a disgusting thing. What's he going to do? He gets a little bit tired of his wife. They swap wives. God forbid. Person swaps wives. He says, oh, come on, I'm a religious guy. I can't do that. So you know what? You divorce your wife. I'll divorce my wife. And then each one will take the other guy's wife. And then after a couple of months, let's, swap back again. Why not have a little, vacation? He says, that's disgusting. That's a disgusting thing to do. You can't use your own pleasures for whatever you want to. That's the opposite of Judaism. Yeah, you have pleasures, okay, but you have to do the way God wants. If a man marries a new woman, lo yetzeh b'tzava, he should not go to the army. He should be clean for his house 1 full year, and he should be happy with his wife that he took. It says yismach et ishto. He should make his wife happy. If he gets married and immediately goes out to the army, so this will it'll mean that he's sort of they weren't really married. Lo yachbo rechaim b'rechav ki nafsho. You cannot yachbo. You cannot take as a surety, as collateral, a grinding stone. Rechaim b'rechav. That's a what do you call it? A mill. The rechav is the top stone, and the rechaim is the bottom stone. You can't take that from somebody because this is the food that he eats. The rechav is the upper one. Right? I'm just telling you a lot of times what Rashi says. If you find a person gonev nefesh that steals or kidnaps someone, B'nai Israel. Now this is also the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments, when it says don't steal, right? Lo tignov, it means don't steal people. The commandment not to steal money is another place in the Torah. That's why it's so important to have the oral Torah to tell you what, even the 10 Commandments is not understood. So, but here's telling you details. It says, if you find the witnesses, and he makes use of this person, he puts this person to work, and this is what it's coming to tell you. It's coming to tell you details of the 10 Commandments. 10 Commandments says if you kidnap somebody, you're guilty. And here it says you're only really guilty if you use the person at all. Sweep my floor, tote that barge, lift that bale. It says the one who did the kidnapping will die. All the 10 Commandments are things that are punishable by death. The second set, the 5 that are on the first 5 are they're also keeping Shabbos is also death, punishable by death. But honoring your mother and father is not punishable by death. It says all the 10 Commandments, they're technically or potentially punishable by death. And this is one of them. Stealing, kidnapping, punishable by death. But that's only if you use the person. If you watch out for the negat sarat, we talked about this before, the leprosy, Torah leprosy. Watch out, like I commanded you. What does it mean, watch out? Don't pull out the signs of impurity. Don't cut it off, the white hairs, etc. Remember what God did to Miriam and the way when they came out of Egypt. What type of a commandment is this? Remember what God did to Miriam. So what did God do to Miriam? It says, it's talking about leprosy, and then it talks about Miriam, Lashon Hora. It says Miriam, she spoke the mildest sort of damaging words about Moses, right? I mean, she didn't intend anything bad, and she didn't say anything to hurt him, but nevertheless, she did say negative things about Moses. She said that her brother Moses, that he left his wife, he left his wife because he's now going to be a prophet. Woe to the woman. Because as soon as Moses got prophecy from God, so he always had to be ready for the prophecy. So he wasn't with his family. So in any case, she got punished with the spiritual Torah leprosy. She said she was punished for 7 days. So it says this talks about this spiritual disease, leprosy, this punishment of leprosy, which comes from, what does it come from? Doing what Miriam did, speaking negative things. That's what it says. Don't do like Miriam. Watch what comes out of your mouth. Okay, if your friend owes you money, you cannot go into his house to take collateral from him. You have to stand outside and he will bring it to you. And if he's a poor person, then you have to return it to him in the nighttime, right? You took something from the person and he took his pajamas, right? Now the guy comes back and says, listen, I need my pajamas in the nighttime. You can say to him, listen, tough luck, my friend. You borrowed from me $25 and you want the pajamas back? Well, I want my money back. And the money is mine. You took it from me, right? Give me the money. I'll give you the pajamas. You can't do that. If the person wants his pajamas back, In the nighttime, you have to give it back to him. Hashev teshiv lo. Give him back whatever you. And when the sun comes up, then you can give it back to him, right? And God will bless you, etc. And whatever you do. As we'll talk about more, we'll try to get more commandments in tomorrow. Tomorrow, God willing, we will do the Haftorah, but we'll have time to finish off some of the commandments here in this week's Torah portion. Have a good day with Mashiach now. Hope to see you tomorrow, 8:15 in the morning. Shalom uvracha.